You know, if I had to describe VA's accountability record in one word, it would be non-existent. You know, last year after an internal department audit uncovered secret wait lists at 110 facilities across the country, VA leaders and President Obama said that they were going to hold people accountable. And unfortunately, we're here today to say that that has not occurred. They have not fired a single employee as it relates to the manipulation of wait time. The department is now in the process of recruiting some 28,000 healthcare workers, and I would say that their recruiting effort is going to be greatly diminished because there are people out there that don't want to go to work where somebody has a reputation for allowing corrupt behavior to go unpunished. VA's accountability problem is so bad that rather than disciplining bad employees, what VA does is transfer them to other places within the VA system or puts them on paid leave for months on end, ensuring taxpayer money is wasted and that bad employees have an opportunity to spread their problems all across the country. This disturbing trend continues because current civil service rules make it very difficult to hold employees accountable. I know this because high-ranking officials within VA, even people who are very close to the Secretary, have told me so behind closed doors. Now, this VA Accountability Act is a bipartisan piece of legislation that would address this problem head-on, and it aims to replace VA's culture of complacency with a climate of accountability. Again, accountability is critical. Among other things, the bill would give the Secretary the authority to remove any VA employee based on performance or misconduct, and the bill would limit the Secretary's authority to remove or demote an employee if they are a whistleblower who has filed a claim with the Office of Special Counsel. Look, we can't expect VA to become a winning team if they're not willing to cut bad players. Right now, VA leaders either won't do that or they can't do that. And the department's abysmal track record on accountability proves it. The VA Accountability Act is a common sense solution to an obvious and a pervasive problem. I support it, veterans support it, and I am urging lawmakers in both the House and the Senate to do the same. And with that, I'd like to yield to Kyrsten Sinema, if she would, to come forward and speak as a bipartisan co-sponsor of this legislation.
Thank you so much, Chairman Miller, for inviting me to join you today, and thank you for your leadership on this issue and all the issues that veterans face in our country. I appreciate it so much. Also, thank you to IAVA, the American Legion, AMVETS, Concerned Veterans for America, and all veterans who are standing with us today here in this building, but standing with us at home all across the country. A year ago this month, we learned that veterans at the Phoenix VA were kept on secret waiting lists, waiting months before seeing a doctor and not getting the care they needed. These revelations were shocking and sickening. Some veterans died while waiting for care. That's absolutely unacceptable, and frankly, it's un-American. On May 1st, 2014, 3 executives responsible for the tragedies at the Phoenix VA were placed on administrative leave. 2 of those employees are still on paid leave, and tomorrow will be 1 year. It's wrong that it takes this long to fire people responsible for poor treatment of veterans. We have to change this system. Bad actors should be held accountable, and those doing good work should be rewarded. Representative Miller's VA Accountability Act gives the VA the authority to hold employees accountable, fire the bad actors, and change the culture at the VA to put veterans first. Secretary McDonald has pledged to change the culture at the VA, putting veterans first. This legislation gives him greater tools to accomplish the mission of the VA. The bill also provides additional protection from retaliation for whistleblowers. If it weren't for these brave men and women, we may not have learned about the tragedies at the Phoenix VA. More lives could have, and probably would have, been lost. Whistleblowers working at VAs all over this country are trying to bring accountability and reform to the system, yet the fear of retaliation holds many of them back. In order for the VA to become a center of excellence that puts veterans first, we need whistleblowers to continue to speak up and speak out. And this bill protects them and their efforts to reform a damaged system. I pledge to continue working with Chairman Miller, veteran service organizations, and my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to hold the VA responsible and ensure that veterans have access to the timely and high-quality care they deserve. Thank you again, Chairman Miller, for your leadership, and I'm proud to join you in this effort.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for being a true champion for veterans. Congresswoman Sinema, it's an honor to stand here with you. We came and spoke to you yesterday and called Chairman Miller, and you're here. And that's the kind of leadership that really matters, and we appreciate it. I know Senator Rubio hoped to be here as well, and we appreciate his courageous leadership in the Senate. He never hesitates on the big issues to take a tough stand, and that's what we're doing here today. I also want to thank the American Legion, IAVA, AMVETS, and all the other veterans organizations. It's kind of a familiar crew. In fact, these four same groups, along with Chairman Miller and Senator Rubio, stood in the Senate in the House last year, about a year ago, is fighting for the VA Management Accountability Act. So a year later, things haven't changed. It's time to get the band back together and make something happen. So on behalf of Concerned Veterans for America and all of these veterans standing behind me who have been on the Hill the last couple of days with us at Concerned Veterans for America, traveling across the country, 150 of us, some have had to leave, over 300 meetings, we have made the VA Accountability Act our #1 priority as an organization to ensure accountability comes to the VA that's long overdue. And it's not just us, it's these other veterans groups here, and I would also recognize that the VFW and PVA have also supported this legislation, so we're eager to have veterans organizations leading the charge. We are entering a new era of choice, accountability, and reform that is coming to the VA and coming for veterans. And leaders can either stand in the front and lead that effort, or they can be dragged along. But veterans will no longer tolerate the status quo at the VA, and that's what organizations like Concerned Veterans for America is fighting for. Veterans want real choice. They deserve real choice, and CVA is advancing it. Vets now have choice cards, but they still don't have real choice. As our Texas director, Cody McGregor, said, I chose to serve my country. Why can't I choose my doctor? It's a pretty common sense principle. This piece of legislation is a huge step in that direction as well. Real accountability. The New York Times, with the help, I would say, of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, exposed most recently that not only have very few people been fired for cause of the waitlist scandal a year ago, 0 people have been fired for cause as it pertains to the waitlist scandal at the Phoenix VA a year later. That is fundamentally unacceptable. The VA Management Accountability Act that we helped pass, that the chairman and many here supported, was a good step, but just a step. This bill applies the same standard to the entire department. It would bring real accountability. It would put a tool in the hands of the VA secretary that he needs to ultimately change a culture. In order to deliver quality and timely care to vets, we have to change the culture at VA, and we believe, and that's why Concerned Veterans for America strongly supports the VA Accountability Act, that it is a big step in getting that done. So, Mr. Chairman, Congresswoman, and everyone here, thank you very much for standing with us. It's an absolute honor. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon. I'm Stuart Hickey from AMVETS. I feel like I should be talking to the people behind me here too, but I'd like to thank also Chairman Miller and Congresswoman Sinema for your leadership in this area. As Pete said, and I'm not going to go rehash history, several years ago we had a panel here in town talking about what the VA needed, and one of the things that came out of it was that Congress needed to change some of the laws that the Secretary has to deal with. Well, I hope now that the laws are going to be changed, that the Secretary will use them, and we'll see in the future if they're going to change the culture. And if they can't change the culture, then they need to change the people, because the way they're doing business now can't continue. Veterans, American veterans, all veterans groups, and I think all veterans in the United States don't want to see this dysfunction that we have at the VA continue, and somebody has to be held accountable. And now that you have the tools, there should be no excuse to start using them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of IEVA and its 400,000 members, I want to thank Chairman Miller and Congresswoman Sinema, along with those gathered, for their leadership on veterans issues. I want to simply thank the chairman for introducing H.R. 1994, the VA Accountability Act, to help restore accountability to the Department of Veterans Affairs. We stand here nearly 1 year to the day since information came to light regarding manipulation times at 110 VA facilities. Yet, incredibly, those involved in the mismanagement have not been held accountable. These lack of consequences are damaging to morale, both within the VA and for those of us in the veteran community, and send the wrong message to those VA employees who work hard, play by the rules, and provide veterans with quality care they earned. Secretary McDonald has asked Congress to provide him with flexibility to overhaul and reform the VA. IAVA supports Chairman Miller's legislation that would give the Secretary increased authority to remove employees that are not serving our veterans to the standard they have earned. Simply, VA leadership must have the tools to fire corrupt or incompetent employees. In the end, Mr. Chairman, legislation is about accountability and fairness. It is unfair for the whole of the VA to get painted with the broad brush of failure or wrongdoing based on the negligence of others. Employees need to see that there are severe consequences for those who fail in their sworn duty to aid veterans. Only through increased accountability will the culture within the VA be changed, employee pride restored, and veterans once again receive timely and accessible quality care they deserve. IAVA and our members urge congressional leadership to move this legislation in as expedited manner as possible. Thank you.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the 2.3 million wartime veterans of the American Legion, I would like to thank especially Chairman Miller for your leadership and Representative Sinema, who has been with us since the very beginning of the Phoenix scandal. It was approximately a year ago that our national commander called for accountability in VA at the highest level. We are still struggling to see accountability, real accountability, within the Department of Veterans Affairs, and thus we have to do more. When we are still seeing in North Carolina and other places that the manipulation of scheduled wait times is going on even a year after this has been brought to light, that's not acceptable. When we see VA executives who have mismanaged an office, not fired, but instead promoted and transferred, that is not acceptable. It wasn't enough for the American Legion to complain about these things here in Washington. We had to go out and do something about it. And since the very beginning, since Phoenix, we have had dozens of veterans crisis centers and veterans benefit centers where we have gone out and seen thousands of veterans across the country, starting in Phoenix, going to Skid Row in West LA, going to North Carolina, going to Puerto Rico, going to Florida, all across the country to interact with the veterans and to interact with the VA where the veterans were struggling to get care. One of the things that I think is overlooked, VA employees, somewhere between a third and half of VA employees are veterans, and they're frustrated when they see their fellow employees who get away with behavior like this. In the military, we all learn that if you're a bad actor, you're not just letting yourself down, you're letting the team down, and that's worse than anything that you could do to yourself. So we need to clear out these bad actors. We need a swift but fair mechanism to clear the bad actors out of the way and let the good people step forward who are going to put veterans first, to take control of the VA and make it what it's supposed to be. The Department of Veterans Affairs can do amazing things for the veterans in this country, and the American Legion absolutely stands behind that, but they need to clear these bad actors and this corruption out of the way to make room for that. So I thank Chairman Miller again for his leadership on this, and Representative Sinema. This is a bipartisan effort. Everyone owns this. We all want to make a better VA. So thank you for being here, and hopefully this legislation will help continue the work we did with the VA reform of last year and move forward to get a VA we can all be proud of.
I don't have anything prepared. I'm Congressman Brian Babbitt from District 36, and I happen to be a veteran. I'm a member of the American Legion, and I offered an amendment yesterday on the floor, which will be part of this bill. I guess, first off, I want to just thank Chairman Miller and Congresswoman Sinema for the hard work they've done on behalf of our veterans. I'm also the father of a decorated Navy SEAL with 3 tours to Iraq. So veterans mean a lot to me. My father was a World War II vet. This couldn't be happening at a better time. We want to see some accountability at the VA. It's gotten so hard, it's absolutely absurd what we're seeing. And now that a year's gone by, not one person has been chastised or lost their jobs. And so I think it's wonderful that we're seeing this bill come to the floor. I can't support it more. And I want to pat everybody on the back that had anything to do with it. And I also want to thank all these veterans behind me. It's good to have veterans at your back, I can tell you that. Thank you for your service, and I appreciate being and proud to be able to be standing up here. God bless you.
We'll close it up. I just want to thank again, like the Congressman did, the veterans and families standing behind us. This is the reason we're doing it. This is what it's all about. That's why we're here today. And the chairman for making it work, and Congresswoman, Congressman, thank you very much. So we'll stick around to answer questions, but that's all she wrote. Thanks a lot.